What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Who You Got with and Rado is a sports podcast where we talk favorite sports, debates, sport highlights, and sports matchups. And I just want to make sure you guys like the video below if you're watching right now. And if you guys are checking us out on the podcast, listening along, you guys can check us out on Apple, Spotify, we're everywhere, Google Podcasts as well. Also, if you're checking us out on Facebook, write a comment below. We love to hear what you guys got to say while we're talking about whatever topic we're on. And also, if you guys have predictions of your own or different questions, ask us. And if you really want to ask us questions that we put on the podcast, check out our Patreon right now. We got some cool things out there for you guys. You can ask us questions. You can do some general support. Also, if you sign up with us for 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months, then you got like some really cool merch out there. And you guys can find us on our personal pages, Instagram at The Iconic Dude, and Mello, you're at? That's right, that's right. And today we got a awesome topic for you guys today, right, Mello?
Yeah. You already know what it is. It's our weekly NFL episode, and we just capped up week 4, going into week 5,
Yep.
and the NFL is looking very spicy right now.
Tell me about it, bro. Tell me about it. It's looking amazing, honestly.
Yes, I would say we got a couple teams that are playing as they should. Some surprise teams that are doing a lot better than people expected,
Yep.
and then some teams that were a lot of hype behind that are now basically shit in the bag. So it's definitely a lot to talk about this episode. So we got a few topics as well as obviously a couple who you got going over
Exactly.
this week's primetime games.
Definitely got to give you those predictions. And it's been so exciting these last few weeks of the NFL. I know there's been some injuries that we can also throw in that we could talk about, but it's been really exciting watching everything going on.
Oh yeah, 100%. Right now we got a lot of good offenses clicking, some good defenses showing up, and like you said, we have some unfortunate injuries throughout the year on a lot of teams. And it does seem like injuries are happening a lot more recently. But hey, at the end of the day, football is being played, and we're getting right into crunch of it.
That's true. I mean, you got like some top dogs like the Philadelphia Eagles right now showing out at 4-0. Obviously, Kansas City Chiefs are doing what they got to do. I mean, teams even out there like the the Bills, you got to give it to them. You know, they're doing their thing, even though they're going through some injuries. And shouldn't we just get into the topic at hand right now? The Bills, they've been playing pretty well the last few weeks. I know they got one loss under their record, and you saw in week 4 playing against Baltimore. They went against Lamar Jackson, the pretty much the best dual threat quarterback, and it was an amazing comeback win. Exactly. So, what did you think about that game? Tell me a little about it, and what do you think about the Bills' offense specifically? Do you think that they're really legit, and do you believe in them going the rest of the season?
I mean, yeah, that's definitely what I really want to talk about today, man. That Bills offense.
Yeah.
4 weeks in, are they as good as advertised? They definitely had a very flat first half against
Yes.
Baltimore. Came back with a lot of help from the Baltimore offense, with
True.
a couple of turnovers in the second half, and then obviously a 17-point disgusting outing against Miami.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear nothing against playing against the practice team defense when your offense was almost fully intact,
Yeah. It
and
was
you
bad.
literally only put up 17 points because y'all scored 19, and 2 of those points came from the punter kicking the ball into his own player's ass.
Right.
So basically, when it comes to the Bills' offense, right now the defense is holding down as best as it could.
Yep.
And like I said, what I really want to focus on is that offense.
Right. So, what do you think about them? Their offense? How do you really expect them to do like the rest of the year? And what do you really see from them? Because I know for me, like I definitely expect them to do some real good things this year. I really expect this offense to actually step it up. I know right now that they're not really playing as best as they can be, but you know, as far as them, you know, coming back into the game in Baltimore, they came back from 2 touchdowns down. You know, that's tough. Especially, I know that the Ravens don't have the toughest secondary, but their front seven is pretty tough. And you definitely saw that the Bills, you know, they can come in a game like that and win a tough game, which this is probably going to be a playoff matchup for sure. As far as like their overall offense going out throughout the season, though, I really don't believe in their running back ability. I know they got Singletary out there, and they're doing something with Moss as well. I don't necessarily believe in them 100%. The thing is with them, it's going to be interesting to watch if you know if they're able to really get another young running back. I know Zach Moss has been going in there, but they got another guy that they picked up in the 6th round. Hopefully he starts going back in. I know they still got Matt Breida, but they really got no running game other than Josh Allen though. What do you really think about them though?
I mean, that's honestly the problem, and pretty much what I was going to get to. I mean, you got one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Right,
Uh,
right, right.
Fantastic
Yep,
offense. Pretty
yep.
much, I believe you got very two high end receivers, Stephon Diggs and
That's for
Gabriel
sure.
Davis.
That's
Gabriel
for sure.
be a little underrated, but he does got a chance for improvement, and I think they got very good options at the slot with Crowder and McKenzie. Both of them are very speedy route runners, good separation,
Yep,
find ways to get yards after the catch. Decent middle of the pack offensive line, but for the most part, you don't see Josh Allen running for his life. And one of the best dual threats in the league, he's actually been able to manage when he does get that pocket to fold on him. So at the end of the day, you pretty much said it best. The issue is that running game. I've been saying it for years now. You cannot be have that. Josh Allen cannot be your best runner, and that's going to sustain you in the
it's true.
playoffs. That is just not going to work. Um, every year, they pretty much they find ways to get deep. Last year, I know that Kansas City fluke. They were right there. But
Yep,
they find ways to get the ball moving. But it seems like defenses know how to pretty much crash that pocket
yep.
and not crash that pocket, but pretty
Contain
much
him.
either
Yeah,
contain Josh
contain him. Yeah,
and play the pass. So they don't get forced to pretty much stack the box because there's no threat when it comes to road running besides Josh Allen. So yeah, that's definitely one of my biggest concerns. Obviously, Ken Dorsey is the new man in town. A lot of new play calling. Right now, I hope he has a little bit of a chill
right.
pill. I know we've seen that video of him slamming that tablet
Slamming it, bro.
2 weeks ago
Slamming it, bro. He
in
hates
Miami.
losing.
That
He
was
hates
just hilarious.
losing.
Definitely hates losing. Um, but that was 100% on
He's,
him. They didn't
I
move
think
that
so.
ball not nowhere near well enough. And that comes down from the running game. Miami just played the pass all night. And truthfully, besides the first half of
Yep,
Baltimore game,
yep.
that was the most I've seen those receivers get shut
Right.
down and stuck.
That makes sense.
Like it was
That makes
actually
sense.
Baltimore first half, they really found a way to shut them down. But Miami, obviously, they had a lot of people going in and out with the heat and all that. Miami defense found a way to pretty much stay stuck to who they needed to. And I don't know. So, do you think this offense can win a Super Bowl the way that it is right now? No injuries or anything like that. Obviously, all receivers, but basically, because like you said, Devin Singletary is a starting running back on that team. That's not that great. At the end of the day, he went to Florida Atlantic for a reason. They got Zach Moss, but he's like another not that great running back. And obviously, we all love the name behind James Cook out of
That's the man I
Georgia.
was talking about.
Dobbins'
Yeah,
little brother.
James Cook.
But we definitely got to see what he has to offer potential. Now, he might be that person, but at the end of the day, until they get an all star or a pro, pretty much a pro level, like an all pro
Yeah, three
level
down back is
running
what they
back in
need.
the back,
Yeah.
until they do that, I think that they're going to continue to have some holes. So the question is, do you think the Bills can get to and win the Super Bowl with their offense
I
as it
mean,
is?
see, this is a tough question for me because honestly, if the question was worded differently, if the team as a whole can make it to the Super Bowl, then yeah, honestly, if you look at the team as a whole, their defense is stacked right now. They really don't need much help on defense. I know that Micah Hyde just got injured. I think it might be for this season as well. That's a
I
tough
think it is
loss
too.
in the secondary.
But they're getting
They are
White back
getting
soon.
White, which is gonna be huge as well. Tre'Davious White is amazing in the secondary,
So that's
but
the thing. I think that secondary and that defense is gonna
I
be
still
top
believe that. I
three
still think they're gonna be
still
top
at the end of
five.
the year.
Actually, um, But that's the thing. That the way that the question is worded, do you think that the offense is gonna take him to the Super Bowl? Do I really? I think that their passing offense can take him to far and definitely in the playoffs. But
Top 10 in the
and they're
last two
probably
years.
gonna be top five this year, like as far as overall offense. But
Oh,
that's
he's
because he's
throwing,
throwing like
bro.
4,500
He
yards.
is
He's
throwing.
passing like 600. I mean, sorry, running for 300 yards. Josh Allen, that is. Obviously, the other running backs are splitting at least 4 to 500 yards each, so they're averaging almost 4 or 5 yards a carry. So they're doing their own thing. I just worry about them in the playoffs because the one thing that travels in the playoffs is running backs, running game and defense.
They need a running
And
game.
if they play at home, I think that that's gonna help them a little bit, but maybe not even because if it's in December, January, it's gonna be cold out in Buffalo, and you're not gonna want to throw the ball like that much. So I do think that they're gonna need to step up that running game. Maybe Devin Singletary's gonna take over a little bit more. I don't know. It's gonna be tough, but do I think that they can make it to the Super Bowl with this offense? Yeah, easily. I think that they're top five offense as constructed right now. With that running game like a little bit better, if they get it stacked up a little bit, I think they could be top one, top two.
Yeah, no, I would have to agree. Say about the running game and watching them. Yeah, I like the James Cook pick, but watching them not spend any money trying to get a back in the off season, and they had a few there because they don't need a star.
Right.
You just need a decent back.
That's true.
But I still think that the offense, not every Super Bowl winning offense have been all the way put together, and they definitely got a lot of key pieces. And the only weakness we can really point to is honestly that running back. So I definitely do think, especially in the AFC, when you got pretty much offensive teams to worry about, not defensive teams, I definitely do think that they can make it to the Super Bowl. Now, winning the Super Bowl, it all depends on what defensive juggernaut they beat
That's a good
because
point.
there's a lot of good defensive teams in the NFC. And right now, it might be too soon to tell. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like I think the 49ers are going to make the Super Bowl, but that's they're playing really good defense right
They
now.
are, man.
And imagine the Bills playing a team like that in the Super Bowl. They're them not being able to worry about the run. That's going to be some problems for the Bills. So I definitely think they can make it to the Super Bowl. Whether or not they can win a Super Bowl with that offense, obviously it all depends on what team they face.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But I'll be honest, the way that they played in the first game against the Rams, I'll be honest, they looked amazing. They look like a Super Bowl team right there. And the Rams have a good
Yeah,
defense. Obviously, Aaron Donald can do his
I mean,
thing.
but the Rams didn't even look like themselves
They
as
didn't,
well.
but that was mostly on offense at first. Like we couldn't score points in the beginning, and our defense actually looked okay, in, most of the game. But towards the end of the game, we started letting it go. But I do think that a team like San Francisco, if they were to make it, they do have Nick Bosa, who is my defensive player of the year this year. I already called it like earlier in the year when we had our episode about our, awards. I'm thinking that if they make it, it's gonna be an even game. I do think that I take the Bills easily over San Fran. I know that defense is
Well,
stacked, but
I would take that because at that point we don't trust San Fran's offense. But I just brought them for example because right now I personally think they have, uh, when it comes to just in your face stuffing everything you try type of defense. Right now, 4 weeks in, they probably not the best stat wise. Actually, I think they might be the best stat wise, truthfully. But they're looking very
they're looking
good.
great for sure.
So I just picked that defense. But like as a team as a whole, there's not many teams in the NFC who will have a defense that could scare the Bills as well as an
Yeah,
offense.
I mean the
So yeah,
Eagles
so
are.
they might still be a favorite in a few teams, over a Super Bowl pick when it comes to them being in the AFC against a team in the NFC. So I don't say that the 49ers would necessarily beat them, but they definitely would need a defense that know what they're doing, and I think the NFC got some. I don't think the AFC has
See, I
them.
will agree with you there, right there. I agree with that because I do think that the AFC has no defense really. Other maybe like the Raiders have a slight defense, but even them, you can't really trust them. But as far as the NFC, I think the Eagles are great on defense. Their front four is amazing. Obviously, they got Darius Slade out there in the secondary. I do think the Saints have a good defense. If they could make it in the playoffs, I'm not sure about that, but I definitely
Right.
agree with you. With obviously Dallas as well. I forgot the.
Cowboys
I was
got
just
it.
gonna
I was
say
just about to say Cowboys
Trayvon
got a good
Diggs
defense.
balling out.
Yeah.
Obviously, another guy for Defensive Player of the Year, Micah
At the end of the
Parsons.
day, Rams get it together. They got the names on that roster
Bro, we
too.
do. We definitely do. I mean, Taylor Rapp has been balling out for the Rams. I know Aaron Donald's. I saw what he did even yesterday when we were watching the Rams versus 49ers Monday night.
I
He
would
was
say
doing work.
he looked good.
He did. He did.
Yeah.
Obviously, our offense was the issue. And with the Rams, the week one, we had the issue against the Bills with our offense. Same with against the 49ers. And I just think that the Bills are not going to have these type of issues. Right now, they're looking very consistent. They're able to score points. They're
Yeah.
really doing their thing right now. I got to give it to them. Um, I do think that that offense can take him far and possibly to a Super Bowl run for sure. Like a Super Bowl run for sure. And I do give them at least the AFC, conference game. But we'll see if they
Yeah,
make the
nah.
Super Bowl.
I definitely give them the AFC because at the end of the day, they're gonna have a way better defense than most teams they'll face, and they still gonna have a better offense than most teams they face. There's about two teams that could come close to matching their offensive
Mm-hmm.
output, but none of those teams come close when it comes to the defense. And then the one team you mentioned, the Raiders, that has a good defense. At the end of the day, uh, we don't even know if they're gonna make the playoffs to even be a factor into the conversation to affect the Bills.
Right.
And we might as
Right.
well just segment right into that because that's actually one of the conversations I wanted to have
Mm-hmm.
today. And I'll let you actually lead and take this off. Uh, the Raiders, man, 0-3 finally got something going, but it's not looking too good for them in a very tough division. The question is, can the Raiders make the playoffs at this point?
Well, I'll be honest. Like I didn't have them, winning this division. I definitely didn't.
Right, right.
But I will say that I had them in second place in this division. At the end of the year.
I had them going to the playoffs
Yeah,
too.
I thought that they were gonna at least compete with. Oh no, actually, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Now that I think
No,
about
we
it,
had them third.
yeah, we both had them third because I had
So you had
Chargers,
Chargers, I
KC.
had
That's
Chiefs,
right.
but we both agreed that we thought all three
Yeah, yeah, I
teams
did have them at
were
like nine
gonna
and some,
get
10 and
to the
six. Yeah.
playoffs.
So with them,
Yeah.
it's tough to watch because like the first few games they had a chance to win those, and those came down to the fourth quarter. So really, they could honestly be 3-1 if you look at it. They're losing
Yep.
some close games.
Yep.
That offense is looking legit. They definitely are doing. Obviously, Devontae Adams is doing work, and Josh Jacobs is balling out of control.
Finally
Like
had a great game.
really has.
He was a little stagnant, but he finally like really broke
Finally
off
broke
this
out.
week.
Definitely, Derek Carr is not really throwing interceptions, which is one thing that he always had a problem with. Which is a good thing to see from him. And if that defense can honestly look, defenses we're talking about them, they're keeping teams to very low scores. Like I read the stat that they're the only team in the NFL that has kept every team under 28 points. Or yeah, in every game they've had under 28 points on the opposite team. So that's pretty good, especially right now with higher scores going on, and they're the only team to do that. I do think that defense could step it up
Hmm.
and hold them down in a few games because they got a few tough games in that division that they might even be closer. They might lose them. I mean, even like the Broncos, you can't really trust them now. In the beginning of the season, a lot of people were giving them credit, but you can't trust them that much now. So really, with the Raiders, I do think that it's going to be a long haul for them. It's going to be a long season. They're going to have a lot of up and downs. I do see them going on like a little streak in the middle of the season, maybe a 5-game winning streak that they're going to pick themselves back up for a little bit because that offense can honestly hold it down for them. Just like we were talking about the Bills, that offense could take them far.
Oh
I do
yeah.
think that the Raiders' offense could take them far. It's just if their defense could play along with them. And as of right now, they are. They're just losing some close games, and there's some heartbreakers. They really are. So with them, I just think that you have to wait for them to really catch their stride on offense, and by the middle of the season, you'll see that they're gonna be fighting over that second spot in the AFC West.
See, so do you have them make them playoffs?
So as far as making the playoffs, the odds are against them. Being 1-3, it's definitely against them. There's 75% to not make the playoffs, but I think that they are going to make the playoffs. And the way that I'm looking at the AFC right now, there's a few divisions that you got at least three teams that are not going to make it. So I do think that this division could have three teams in it. Even if they make it at 9-7, that could be a possibility with them. So, I do see them making it still. What about you though?
So I don't know. There's a lot of things that play into action here.
Right.
One of them, just like you said, the 0-3 record. Not many teams. I think only six made it to the playoffs. After that, last time we seen it was in 2018 with the Houston Texans. So right there, it's already not looking good. But pretty much another one. Everyone loves Josh McDaniels, but at the end of the day, that this week was his first win since 2010.
Damn.
He
I
has
didn't know
been one
that.
in 10 in the last 11 games
Whew.
as a head
That's
coach.
tough.
Um, so last year, they had a lot going on. I remember last year they lost a lot of close games. Right now, we see that same thing. You mentioned the first two games. There was plenty of chances to where it really could have went one way or the other.
Right.
Um, Last year, they went 7-2 in one score games, and four of them were overtime wins. They basically are looking like they have to do the same exact
Mm.
thing. And now, why you might think like I forgot what team it was another team from last year that kept doing the same thing. The Bengals. It was the Bengals. I'm like, the Bengals did well, but a lot of the games they won were one score games. Right now, they started off 0-2, and it looked like they were going to be on the other side of
Yeah,
that
they were
coin.
almost all the way through
The
as well.
Raiders this year is looking like they're going to be on the other side of that, winning or losing close games. And the reason why I say this, while the offense does look like it's kind of clicking, at the end of the day, I do think that their biggest issue and their biggest red flag is their red zone offense. They basically went inside the 26 times against the Titans with only two touchdowns. They had three drives and then a field goal, interception in the end zone, and at this point they're only 6 for 13 in the first 3 weeks. Not looking too good when it comes to scoring in the red zone. When it comes to you barely winning or losing games by one score, and you can't punch in the ticket when you're down in the 20, you're gonna lose those games. And that's why while they definitely look great this week, the first 3 weeks they wow and there's good takeaways from certain key players. I'll be honest, I personally didn't think that offense looked
Mm.
cohesive at all. And the one thing we said last year after all the coaching issues, we they didn't have their identity. We thought this year they got McDaniels is gonna be specific. He's gonna want to do what he want to do. At this point, it's looking like the same exact thing from last season. They're gonna start off bad, struggling to do what they're supposed to do because they don't know if they're a running team. They don't know if they're a West Coast team. They don't know if they're throwing deep threats. The defense is going to kind of hold it down, and towards the end of the season, they're going to get hot. Last year, they played the last game of the
Just
season
to get
to
in
get
that
into the
playoffs,
playoff
yeah.
spot,
Yeah, that's a good point.
and I think this year they're just going to miss out. Like I said, we got the Chargers looking better. The Chiefs, obviously, the Chargers and Chiefs are going to take that division. And at this point, there's a lot of other teams in the AFC that aren't looking too bad, or there's a lot of better teams that didn't have the best start to where you all are going to be fighting for playoff spots at the end. And the fact that you're not going to be a Division One, like it's going to be hard. So I definitely think at this point, 1-3, it sucks to say because it's so like we really
But
got
you
like
still got 75% of the season.
I know, but I'm gonna say no.
See,
I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs. And I did, and that's the thing. I think it's just the same recipe from last year. I think they're literally gonna do the same exact thing. Start off a little rough. They might go 1-1 the next few games, go on a nice little win streak, but it's
it's
just
not
not
gonna be
gonna be
enough.
enough.
Yeah, I mean, I like that point that you said because their conference is definitely getting better. Obviously, you got the Chargers that are definitely gonna get better, and I mean even the Broncos they did bring in Russell Wilson, so they're hoping to get better. But
And now you and now you start losing in those close division
that's what I was
games.
gonna say. They still got 4 games against Kansas City and the Chargers, so those are gonna be some tough games for sure.
And you might lose that last one. Um, in that division too. At the end of the day, like that win against the Broncos was a wake up call, but we still haven't seen the Broncos wake up. So I'm not gonna just randomly choose the Raiders over Broncos the next time they play.
Yeah, I don't know. I still give the Raiders.
Because no, right now we will, but like I said, the Broncos might start playing
They
good
could.
too. I mean, they got Javante out, so they finally might start giving Melvin. 'Cause I think that whole issue with they don't know who's to start running back was stupid because Javante was better.
Right, right. But
Melvin's still
Melvin's getting
good, but
paid a
then
lot
they
more.
give him the
He's
touches.
getting paid a lot more.
And that was their issue. And that's what they was like. So now I think they might start to find some
Right.
identity because your running back only do what he can do. Russell got to do the
True.
rest.
True.
You know.
Um, it's
So
just that I definitely agree with you. The Broncos. It's not a sure win, but with them, I just can't trust them at all right now. With Russell Wilson, he can't really get that offense going that much. They really only got Cortland Sutton out there. But as far as the Raiders, I do think that they can get their offense going. I mean, like I said, they lost 2 games by pretty much a field goal in the end of the game, so they could easily be 3-1 right now. We could be talking about a totally different team. I do think that a 1-3 start is tough, and it's tough to get out of to get yourself back into the playoffs. But I do think now that they added that extra team to the playoff format,
hmm
that's 7 team. I think that it's a little bit easier. So I do think that even though teams like the Jaguars are getting better, and obviously, like I said, the Chargers, who I think is going to be the winner of this division, I do think that you're going to see that the Raiders are going to pick it back up because they got too good of an offense not to, honestly.
yeah,
And if they
nah,
don't,
yeah, they got
if they
potential.
don't, then I don't know how much longer Derek Carr is going to stay there.
I mean, but think about it. How many years have the Raiders team had the personnel, but just can't seem to get it to work?
True. I mean, last year they had problems, with the whole John Gruden thing that was
But
going on.
they had Carr. I want to say Josh and Amari. If it wasn't Josh, they
They
still
had
had
Josh
another
Jacobs.
running back that
They
was
had Josh
decent. It
Jacobs,
was
yeah. But
Josh,
two
yeah.
years ago,
And that was when he really was at his peak. When we thought, oh, he's about to be the next. It was before we thought he was going to be Jonathan Taylor, basically. Like we thought he was going to be that
but
next
he
guy.
did play great last year. It's just they had no. I mean, other than Hunter Renfro, they had nobody else to throw to. So it was really tough for him. That's why I mean Hunter Renfro, he went for like 1,500 yards last year, and that was really good as a receiver. But you saw that they still picked up the number one receiver in Devontae Adams because they needed another guy. I do think that they went through a lot last year as far as like their coach getting changed up and all the attention being on them. But Derek Carr has never been the top quarterback in NFL. At one point, he had a 6 game stretch. This was 3 years ago when he had a 6 game stretch in the beginning of the season where people were looking at him as the MVP, and then he got injured, and then the rest of the season, obviously he wasn't there, so nobody talked about him. But since then, he's never had like a career like moment or really a season moment where you're looking at him and it's like, yeah, he's the guy that's going to take this team to the next level. So honestly, I do agree that he might not be that guy to push him over that hump, but I do think that with the team they got constructed right now, they could make it to 9-7 or 10-6, and I'm sorry, 9-8 or 10-7, and make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get to 10-7.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean it. So
I
what do you got
mean,
him at
that
like
means they
nine
only
and?
could lose 4 more
What
games.
do you got him at like nine and
I got them 8
eight
and
and
9.
nine? Yeah, just missing out. Just missing
Yeah,
out.
just missing out.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be
But that
surprised.
means they can only lose 4 more games.
It's a good point.
I don't see them winning every 2 out of 3 games.
I think they might go on a stretch of like 5, so we'll see. We'll see. They have a pretty easy schedule like coming up after their bye. They got a pretty easy schedule, so I think that they have a chance to show out a little bit. But you see that Josh Jacobs is doing a little bit better now. You see that Derek Carr is not really throwing interceptions even to a tough defense in Tennessee. So I give him a chance. I give him a chance, but it's a slight chance. Like I don't trust him,
Yeah,
but I'll give him a chance to make it.
I'm gonna take the chance and shut that door
And
and
say
say
no.
no.
But going from a team that's had a disappointing start, and obviously the Raiders, let's go to a team that had an amazing start, surprising start, incredible start. The Eagles.
As much as I hate to admit it, there's only one team that's undefeated left
Yeah,
in the
man.
in the NFL, and at this point, how serious do we take the Eagles, man? Because 4-0, and they're looking good. Obviously not perfect, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Um, but here's one thing I want to say: like, barring any real injuries, like they have a pretty decent, easy schedule. They beat 2 teams that you would think they would have trouble with. That was the Vikings, and truthfully, people might not want to admit it, but last week's game versus the Jaguars, like the Jaguars is a pretty decent team now. Like we didn't expect
I
much
did.
from them,
Remember,
but
they
they
were my
always had a
surprise team
decent
of the year.
defense. and that offense is
Yeah,
clicking right
they're doing
now.
work.
And that was a team the Eagles beat. So right now, they might go undefeated till Thanksgiving.
Oh wow, that's a big claim, bro. Wow, that's like 8 or 10-0 or something like that. 8-0 or 10-0. Wow.
And not only that, I don't see them being an underdog in any games for the next 2 months.
Man.
Maybe the Packers Christmas Day,
Yeah, that's a big game. That's a.
Christmas Eve.
I mean, are they
That's gonna
playing?
be a
They're
big
playing at
game.
home or are they playing at the Packers?
I think they're playing at Lambeau.
Yeah.
Um, and right now, with Cooper Rush still playing for Dallas, that's the only team that they might not be a underdog in. But right now, I like the way that schedule looks. They're playing great. A lot of it have to do with their offense. Um, and I think that I don't want to. I'm not considering to say that they're Super Bowl potential, but they're real.
Think they're for
So
real? Wow.
they're yeah, they're very
Yep.
explosive. They so good and bad because I'm gonna talk about both. Pretty much 24 points in the first three halves, first half of the first three games. But then in those same games, pretty much fell to the second half. They barely
Yep.
scored, and almost all those games was exactly scoreless in the fourth
Mm.
quarter.
Well,
So now some of them they could be like, all right, well we had leads, try to run the clock down, but at the end of the day, that is an issue when you're that explosive in the first half and you can't seem. So you almost lose pretty much almost all your leads because you can't get nothing going. Good. I'll go ahead and go with Jalen Hurts. Now, obviously, we don't know what that running game is looking like for the Eagles. They still doing that kind of running by committee, trying to figure it out. But when you got a good line and a very decent dual threat quarterback, I'm not going to say good. I don't want to say very good, because right now he's playing. Uh, Above his stats, 100%. And do I think he's going to fall down a little bit? Yes, but not like a complete steep drop. But at the end of the day, he's only got one
yeah,
interception
exactly.
that was a bounce off someone's arms and one fumble that was a bad snap.
Yeah, he's protecting the ball.
So
Definitely protecting the ball.
he's protecting the ball, not turning it over, and that's not for lack of trying. He's making some good deep throws. Now, with three-fourths of the season left, those numbers are gonna start to get bigger. He's gonna start throwing a few picks. The running, he's gonna cough it up. So that's why I said I don't want to just say he's all of a sudden gonna fall off. But for what he's doing for the first four games is actually
Yeah.
amazing. But that's not gonna be sustainable, like
Saying
just
he's
not
gonna
at
fall
all.
back down to earth.
Um, and I think his fall back down is still gonna be better than a lot of
Yeah.
quarterbacks this year. Like I do think he's actively progressing. Not only did we see him progress from the last year to this year, but he's improving through each week. You see him trying to be a better passer each week, and that's something that I can appreciate. So obviously we still, like I said, we got 13, 14 games to go, so we're gonna see it exactly.
True.
But what I do want to talk about the bad, and the one thing that obviously is gonna be their biggest Achilles heel is that defense. While it does tout some good names, that run defense
Mm.
completely abysmal. It's not like they're just like bad at stopping the run, but right now they're not even facing teams that are trying to run because they're leading most of those
True.
games and they're still putting up bad stats, and that's why that's so bad. So just a small sample size, you're leading in most games, you're trying to run the clock, and teams are trying to pass, and you're still pretty much showing some of the worst pass or some of the worst rush defense
Mm-hmm.
numbers in the league. That's not good.
No, that's not.
And now when you guys start coming to close games where you can't show up the clock, that's going to be a problem. You got to games where you don't have the lead and you can't stop
Yep.
the run, that's going to be a problem. Just, like then, like I said, when your offense can't score in the fourth quarter of
Mm-hmm.
those games, that's going to be a problem. So it seems like they're doing a lot of good things, but there's a lot of, it's 4 games, it's still early. I do think they're better than they were expected to be. But with everything I just said, along with not really being able to perform that well in the red zone, they're not turning it over. But they're just kind of middle tier with it. I do think that they're gonna fall the middle of the pack, but with
Wow.
with Prescott's injury, they have a very, 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 very good
Yeah.
opportunity to take the division this year.
Yeah, they do.
Now, it doesn't help that Rush is still playing good and the Cowboys are still winning. But we got a few more weeks without Dak. So I think the Eagles at 4-0, obviously with a good start. They in a few weeks they do play the
Yep.
Cowboys, and I think that's going to be a crucial game to obviously who keeps first in
Yep.
the division. But I do think that for the first time in a few years, they actually might have the chance to take the division. And that's why I said I do think that they're serious to where everything might not be going well for them. Some things might be going bad for other teams, but they're gonna put up a fight. And I think they got enough talent around Jalen Hurts, and I think he really stepped it up this year. So I think they do got enough talent around him to make some noise. Maybe a first round exit, depending on who they play in the NFC, 100%. But I don't think anyone expected them to win the Super Bowl even after 4-0. But I do think this 4-0 is a good indication that they might take the division and make some noise in the playoffs. So I do think that's serious because I think what like that's more than we expected at this point. So I do think that's serious because no one expected more like for them to go higher than that. So I think that they're going to be a great team to watch this year and they're going to be serious contenders. And like I said, the way that schedule laid
Yep.
out, the Packers are the only team that I really see like
They definitely
haunting
got
them.
a easy schedule. You're right about that. I take a look at it a little bit ago, and honestly, they do got to play Dallas twice, and we'll see if Dak Prescott's going to be back for those games. That might be a tough game for them, but I got to agree with a lot of the points you made. A lot of people in the beginning of the year, they were talking about, are they going to be able to throw the ball deep?
Mm. Cardinals next week, the one tough game besides the
Yeah,
Packers.
that's a tough
And
game.
at this point, they're not even playing
That's a
like
tough game.
they
The
should
Cardinals
be.
are not.
But I'm
Cardinals are
sorry, go
definitely
ahead.
not. But yeah, I mean, other than like if the boys they play game six, week six with the Cowboys and Cooper Rush still playing, then I probably give him a shot to win that one. But I mean, as far as what Philly is doing, Jalen Hurts is definitely playing better than people expected him to. But I definitely expected this from the Eagles. I had the Eagles winning this division. I said this in the beginning of the season. I thought they were going to win this division, and it was because of Jalen Hurts. I saw what he did the last 6 games of last year. He definitely stepped it up last season in the last 6 games. You saw that he can actually play with this offensive line and with this team as long as the team is centered around him, and it pretty much is. They have a great running game, the best running game in the league, along with the best offensive line in the league, who who has been the best offensive line in the last 2 years. And obviously, it's running back by committee, like you said. Miles Sanders, they got Gaskin, they got obviously Hurts running it as well. So they got a set right there. Now their receivers, what can we say about them? They got like two, probably the best duo right now. They're playing as the best duo right now. I would say AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. They're definitely playing like incredible right now. Though both doing what they should be doing. And in the beginning of the season, a lot of people didn't think that Hurts was going to throw the ball deep. But as of right now,
Right.
week 4, he has the most throws over 20 yards. So you can see
As
that.
I say, it's not for lack
I
of
don't know. He's
trying.
definitely throwing deep. And you said it best. Like he's bringing his turnovers down, which is a big thing for him. His turnovers are definitely coming down from last year. He fumbled it a lot last year, and this year he's not, which is great. If he's going to sustain that, I'm not sure because I do think I agree with you a little bit. I think those numbers are going to come down a bit. He is going to throw some more interceptions. He is going to fumble the ball a bit more. But as far as him running and passing the ball, I think he's doing incredible what he's doing right now. I think the Eagles are definitely showing out. My only issue is if you're looking at their division, people used to call this division the NFC least, and you got the Giants at 3-1, you got the Cowboys at 3-1, and obviously the Eagles at 4-0. So it's not a cakewalk to win this division. Even the Giants are like gonna be
Nope.
fighting for it. I know the Giants are gonna come back down to earth, um, but and we'll see what happens with Cooper Rush in the next few games. But as far as the Eagles, I do agree with you. They have an easy schedule ahead, and they could easily. I'm not sure about them being undefeated like you by Thanksgiving, but I will say that they could easily only have one loss by Thanksgiving. So I definitely see them.
Yeah, because it's gonna be Titans and Cardinals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Pretty
Really.
much. I mean, I don't even trust the Titans that much. Honestly, I
That's what
was
I'm
thinking.
saying. I don't trust the Titans until they get rid of Tannehill. Boy, they can't get me to trust nothing. And that's what I said up until the
Well,
Packers.
I was thinking
And
a team like the Colts. I know the Colts have been very up and down this season, but they got a great running game, and the Philadelphia running defense, like you said, is not great, but I think that they could exploit that a bit
yeah, no, I'm tripping though. They play the Packers on Thanksgiving. They play the second game against the
on
Cowboys
Christmas. Right,
on
right, right.
Christmas, and that's when Dak is back. So that's again, that's what it was. I got confused with dates. So yes, so I think they get undefeated until they play the Packers on Thanksgiving, and then that's going to be a real good test. And then after that, it's straight cakewalk again. I mean, the Giants games aren't going to be cakewalk
Nah,
or
the
the
division
division
games are always
games.
tough. They're always like 3 point games pretty much,
Exactly.
so you can never really. They're always going to be close, all those division games, but it's crazy. They're going to be playing the Giants week
Oh,
17, so that'll be interesting.
and the Titans game isn't until after the Packers.
Mm.
So you really got
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Cardinals, Cowboys, Steelers,
yeah.
Texans,
Colts.
Eagles, Colts,
Yeah.
Packers. So you think Colts, I think Packers, and then maybe to the Cardinals, I would say next week. At the end of the day, 4-0. Right now, the Cardinals are gunning for your head, and they might come out smoking on
But I
offense.
will say this though
Uh,
about Philadelphia though. I know the first game it looked like they had an incredible offense. The offense was running all up and down with Detroit. Um, Detroit just doesn't have a defense. That's why they're able to let so many points go. And they've been doing that for the last few games. But if you look at the last, the last 3 games that the Eagles played, they only scored 3 offensive touchdowns in each one of those games, and that doesn't seem like a lot. That doesn't seem like a lot. You know
That's
what I
what I
mean?
said. They get up by a lot, and then they can't keep the. They don't know how to keep the ball
Yeah,
moving. So that's what I said. They're looking good, but there's a lot of
yeah,
red
yeah. They're letting
flags
teams
there,
come back.
and teams are gonna start figuring it out.
Honestly, even the
Exactly,
Jaguars game, the
exactly.
Jaguars almost came back on them. I was worried for a sec in that Philly game.
No, exactly. That's what I said. So it's they got a lot of things, good things going for them, but like I said, no way in hell they're a Super Bowl team. But hey, they might get a real good chance to win that division. So that's definitely something I'm looking forward to watching
Yeah,
that
yeah, me
division,
too.
especially because we got to see if the Cowboys are gonna let Dak come back. If I mean that they are, but we're gonna see how that plays out if Cooper is
Well, so
playing
this is a
good.
stat that I've heard a lot of people talk about this stat before, but it's been 18 years where a different team has won the NFC East division, and this year might be the first year that a team goes back to back in the last 18 years because Philly won it last year, the division, and then if they won it this year, they will go back to back. So this would be interesting. It's always like a turnaround in that division. Everybody gets a chance to win.
I know, I
So
know.
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, no. So obviously, as you can tell, there's a lot of interesting things happening in
For
NFL.
sure.
We got a lot of good games that's happened so far. Like we said, teams are playing above where they should. Teams that are underperforming. Some teams exactly where they are, but things are looking spicy. So we gotta definitely see how the rest of this year plays
Exactly.
out. But obviously, another reason why we're here is the who you got. So you already know what we're called. Exactly what we got to do. We always go over the prime time games. So why don't we go ahead and go over Thursday, Sunday, and Monday night prime
That's
time?
right. Week 5 is coming up ahead, and a lot of great matchups coming up. I know everyone wants to see their favorite team, but of course, the primetime games are the games that everyone's going to be watching. And the one that's starting us out is Thursday night, and is going to be the Colts versus the Broncos. Now, you got Matt Ryan,
Mm.
who's honestly been playing okay for the Colts. Like you see, he's not turning the ball over much. They've been very up and down. Their defense has a lot of issues. And a team like the Broncos, obviously they've been up and down as well. Their problem is their offense. So what do you see in this game? Who do you see winning this game? Who you got for this one? Broncos versus Colts.
Oh man, well, so hard because both of them are so bad. Um, Listen, both Denver and Indy honestly entered the season with high expectations,
Yeah,
but they're not looking too good for both of them. Colts are 1-2-1, with the only win being a surprise win against the Chiefs, and Broncos are 2-2, and honestly haven't been able to find any stride with Russell
no,
Wilson.
none at all. They're really having trouble with them.
So they really are. So both teams are 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 pretty much bringing forth a top notch defense, allowing very few yards. But the problem is both teams is also bringing forth uh, bottom of the barrel offense. I think the Colts are putting up a league worst 14.3 points a game, while the Broncos are only two spots better at 16.5. No way of scoring the ball for two teams that have so much offensive firepower. It just seems like they don't know what they're doing.
Good
Uh,
point.
Pretty much when you got two stout defenses, two offenses that can't move the ball, and well, one of them got a better running back, but the other one technically got a better quarterback. Pretty much the difference is going to be turnovers. Um, Indy might have that edge. They actually have a little bit of a better defense. I think they got 9 turnovers in the first 4 games, while the Denver has only 4. But at the end of the day, I I wanted to give the edge to Indy, but like Broncos, even without Javante, still have more offensive firepower. With Russell, a few better receivers, and still a decent running back. And it seems like Indy only has Jonathan Taylor. And obviously he's gonna have a good game, but he's been having a good season, and they still only put up 2 touchdowns a game. So that they can't win games like that, you know. So I am going to go Broncos, 24-17.
Nice. 24-17. Good score.
What about you? Who you got?
So, I mean, it's going to be interesting if the Broncos could even score 24 for me, though, because they've been one of the only teams to not go over 20. Or, sorry, they're the only team that only went over 26 one time this year. So, only team in the league that went over 26 once. Broncos are. But what's interesting to me is one thing that you said, about Russell Wilson, Jonathan Williams, or sorry, Javante Williams, excuse me. Um, so Jonathan Taylor, he's supposed to be the better back in this game, right? He's supposed to be the best back in this game. But honestly,
Hmm.
Javante Williams is playing better than Jonathan Taylor is this year.
Oh yeah,
Jonathan
Jonathan.
Taylor's,
And it sucks because Devontae's
yeah,
out
he's
though.
out this year, which is gonna be tough for him.
That's
And
what I
now they
say.
got
Yeah,
Melvin Gordon. Hopefully,
but
he can step it up.
but
But honestly,
but yeah, Jonathan Taylor is better on paper, but he hasn't been
not
living
at
up
all.
to. He's literally supposed to be, especially with Derrick Henry's injury. He was supposed to be RB1 for the whole league
Yep,
this whole
right.
year.
And if you look
Like
at
went
fantasy,
into the league. Yes, I'm saying
if you
that
look
it's
at fantasy,
just
they
people's
picked him
projection
first.
after what he had last year. Obviously, like I said, Derrick Henry. A lot of people also expected a lot from Austin Eckler. But when it comes to what we expected, that Colts offensive line and picking up Matt Ryan, like a lot of people
Yeah,
expected a lot more from Jonathan this
that's
year.
for sure. And honestly, they have the really low rushing numbers right now. They're not looking good. They're actually 26th in the league in rushing, which is very surprising. But the one thing that's crazy, if you're looking at Russell Wilson versus Matt Ryan, honestly, Matt Ryan is having the better year right now than Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's throwing the lowest yards per average, or actually, he's 20 or 31st out of 33 quarterbacks at yards per throw. And Matt Ryan is top 10 quarterback right now. If you're looking at just the stats, he's literally the 10th quarterback in the league as far as passing numbers. So Matt Ryan is able to pass the ball, and the Colts are not able to run the ball. And what Denver's able to do, they're able to run the ball, but Russell Wilson's not able to pass the ball. So I think that this game is going to be basically defenses playing each other. They're going to be stacking the boxes on Jonathan Taylor, so they're gonna try and make Matt Ryan throw it. And I do think that Denver is going to get a few picks on Matt Ryan, but I think that Matt Ryan's going to come out and throw 3 touchdowns on him. I think somehow, some way, they just have better receivers on the outside. Pittman is looking good, even though Jerry Jeudy's on the other side with Denver. He's still young, and I think that he still needs time with Russell Wilson. You see that Russell Wilson, he has no time in the pocket, and even though he likes to throw it fast, he's not able to in this offense right now. And I don't see them really moving the ball that much. I do think that the Denver defense is stout though. They got some linebackers that could really do work in there. But I just think that as of right now, with Pittman on the outside for the Colts, and Jonathan Taylor is going to get a few yards. I think this might be his first 100-yard
Hmm.
game this year against a
Hmm.
bad defense. It's a bad like outside defense because Jonathan Taylor likes to run on the outside. I do think that the Colts are going to take advantage of that. I do think it's going to be a lower scoring game though, and it's going to be 24 to 9 or sorry 24 to 17. I'll say 24-17 Colts.
So same score, just Colts.
Yeah, yeah, basically.
Because I had
Oh, then
24-17
you did. Yeah, yeah,
Broncos.
you did. Respect,
Yeah.
respect. Yeah, but it's
Yeah, no,
both of these
both
teams
of
need a
them are
win.
gonna struggle to yeah, they're gonna struggle to put touchdowns on the board. Pretty much no more than three.
Yeah,
No more than three each for each team. And that's lucky. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a tough defensive matchup though,
that's true.
and it's gonna be a good game in between the lines. Definitely gonna be it's gonna be a good game
I
to
think it's gonna
watch.
be
I'm definitely
good. I think it's
excited.
gonna be close, and I think both of these teams need a win to stay competitive. Obviously, the Colts are
Yes,
still in their division. You know, they have an easy chance to, go up in that division. That they're
at one, two,
at
and
one,
one,
2-1 exactly, and obviously Denver is the one that's really like looking up at their division. With
they need
we
the help.
obviously already talked about the Raiders and what they're doing, but obviously Chargers and then the Chiefs are balling out. So I think that the Broncos definitely need the help if they want to stay in it. Um, but for me, it's just gonna. I
Yeah,
do think that the Colts just have a slightly better offense as of right now, so I think that they're gonna take it. But that's gonna be a great matchup to watch. And and that takes us
great way to start the week
exactly.
off.
And then obviously we got those Sunday games that a lot of people want to see. They got your favorite teams on Sundays. I know my team is hopefully can get a win next week. The Rams hopefully they get a win. But let's talk real quick about a team in the AFC North. Two teams. We got the Bengals,
Oh
who
yeah,
started out bad, and now we're starting to come back into their own. And then the Ravens, who actually looked really hot early in the season, started out amazing, and then just had a tough loss to the Bills. What do you expect
you
from?
gotta love divisional
Yeah, it's
matchups,
going to be a
man.
great divisional matchup. Probably going to be a close game, but who you got for this one? This is going to be a great one. Lamar Jackson versus Joe Burrow.
Man, I think that the AFC North has some of the best matchups besides the NFC East when it comes to really knowing how to play each other.
Yeah.
Those divisional matchups are really good. I think it's going to be even better this year because both teams are looking like, yeah, one's 2-2. Well, they're both 2-2. One and one, 1-1. And obviously the Bengals didn't start off too good,
Yep.
but at the end of the day, they could have been 4-0 when it comes to what the same thing, losing games by this close.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're starting to pick things up. Um, I don't. I know people really shitting on Lamar for his performance against the Bills, but he was literally damn near the best quarterback in the league for 3 weeks. He had one somewhat bad game, and I don't even say somewhat bad game. Like he has that pick in the
That
end
was
zone
bad.
was a
That was
little
bad.
rough. That was really. But besides
But it
that,
wasn't the best day. It was cold out
he
there. It was slightly rainy as well.
But
You
Josh
know,
Allen had a horrible first.
exactly.
Like they
They both
both
have a
had average
exactly.
games. They're both above average players who had average games. And if you literally take away that pick in the end zone, Lamar Jackson played a good
Yep.
game.
Good point.
And so for me, he's still looking like he's looking. And at this point, 4 weeks in, 5 weeks in, we eventually got to have the conversation on whether or not the Ravens messed up by not giving him that money because your boy is balling out right now. Um, so
Don't worry. He
basically,
gonna get
it's
paid. He
gonna
gonna
come
get
down.
paid. Don't worry.
Yeah. So it's gonna come down to which team kind of wants it more. I know that's for every team, but basically, it's gonna come down to forcing the pass for the Ravens and getting into that pocket for Joe. Obviously, the Achilles heel for Bengals is that offensive line, and while the same defense that put Buffalo on hold and was making Josh Allen look like he was running for his life,
Yeah.
only got to Joe Burrows one time. So that O line finally looked like it was supposed to by keeping and protecting the quarterback. And the Bengals scored 27 points. And some of their receivers, while obviously they were paying a lot more attention to Jamar,
T.
T.
Higgins
Higgins
balled.
went
Yeah, he
off.
balled.
Went off. So finally, it seemed like Joe was comfortable in that pocket. And like I said, besides last week against the Bills, Lamar Jackson has been looking prolific on offense. He's been trying to pass the ball more. And last week we finally got a running back from Baltimore to step up and stake their claim as that number one running back. We all knew it was J.K. Dobbins, but he finally
Yep.
showed that I can be that person. So that's good
Yeah.
too,
The
you
first
know.
game back
Uh,
in over almost like 600 days. First game since he's played. Crazy.
Exactly. Exactly. So we knew that he could have that talent, but at the end of the day, Akers came back and he ain't looking too good. So we didn't know what to expect. So J.K. came in and was looking fantabulous, man.
You just say
So pretty much
fantabulous, like fabulous and fantastic. I
fantabulous.
like that.
Yes,
I like that.
yes,
I
I
like that.
did.
I like that word. I'm gonna start
Yes,
using that.
I've I've been saying that for so many years. I didn't
I
even
like
realize
that.
that's how I say that word.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
give it to you.
yeah.
He definitely plays
Yeah.
fantabulous.
That's a fact. But same thing with the Ravens. They could have been 4-0 as
Yep.
well. Very close games. So I think this is going to be explosive
Mm.
offensive matchup. And it's crazy to sound. I really want to go with the Ravens, but pretty much I can't because the Ravens' Achilles heel is their pass defense. And if you just let Joe get any time in that pocket, he's about to destroy that secondary. And at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson and Ravens are not built to come back from behind.
Mm. They have a
So
tough
while
time.
I
Yeah.
think it's going to be a very close game, I have to give the edge to the Bengals. Obviously, one's coming off a hot win, the other one's coming off a close loss. I think the Bengals are finally trying to find their stride. And while obviously the Ravens are already doing what they're supposed to do, I do think that that secondary has a little bit of issues covering those receivers. So I'm going to give it a Bengals win 27-24.
That's a good score.
And I really wanted to choose the
Yeah,
Ravens,
you know
but
what's crazy? So, when I first, heard that they were playing this week, I saw that this was gonna be one of the matchups we were gonna talk about. I was excited to talk about it, but at first, my first thought was Ravens all the way. Like Ravens gonna take it. The way
yeah,
that the Bengals were playing the first few games, like they didn't look great. Obviously, they've been coming back a little bit, and we talked about them a few weeks ago. We saw that they were 0-2, and we asked the question if they're a bust this year
in
or they're in
trouble.
trouble. And we both said that I think they're actually gonna take some strides to make it back into the division. And you see right now, Cleveland, the Bengals, and the Ravens are tied in that division at 2-2. Whoever wins this game is gonna be the top dog in that division because they're gonna have the tiebreaker as of right now.
Hmm.
But you made a great point about the the Ravens secondary. They have a terrible secondary. Terrible. I know the Bills didn't really exploit that in their game, but I do.
Because they actually made Josh Allen
They definitely
uncomfortable.
put pressure on
Not to
him.
mention, so I'll be honest, two of Josh Allen, it was a lot of swats like that D line found a way to get their hands up, and Josh Allen, I'll be honest, he finally looked human yesterday. Yeah, they found a way to put apply pressure, but there was a lot of drop
Yeah,
balls, him underthrowing receivers. Like for
a
me
lot of QB
personally, that
pressure
first
though,
half, like I said, was the and that's what it was, the pressure. But if you got receivers like Jamar and Higgins, that's gonna be a
and
different
that's where I was
story.
gonna go with that. I think that they are gonna ball. I do see Jamar Chase balling out in this game. T Higgins maybe not that much. He's gonna take a step down from last week. He was the number one guy last week. I think Jamar's gonna be the number one guy this week. I also see CJ Uzoma getting a touchdown this week, the tight end, because the Ravens really don't play good against tight ends. They're one of the worst teams actually against the tight end position this year. And I do think that Joe Burrow is going to take a step up. Now, I agree with you. I think it's going to be a shootout. I have a little bit higher score than you, but I do think it's going to be a shootout. And at first, I was going to pick the Ravens, but because I was looking at this game closer and I saw the secondary issues that the Ravens are having, and really, we really haven't seen J.K. Dobbins take off. Like he definitely showed that he's going to be the number one guy, but he hasn't taken off yet. As far as
They have the liability of not letting him run more than 15 times next week because Lamar rushes more than that. Like that's
I
the
don't think
problem with
that
any
that's their
Ravens
only
running
issue with
back.
him though. With J.K. Dobbins, he's still like getting into the rotation. He's still coming off his injury, so they're still gonna wait for him to get in early. And with the other guys, they just didn't have a top guy. J.K. Dobbins he's a three down back. Like we were talking about three down backs earlier. He is that type of dude. But I think they're gonna let him go in early. I think that Lamar is gonna get over 100 yards rushing in this game, but that's not gonna be enough. It's gonna be a close game for me, but I got this one 31-35 with the Bengals coming out and winning it with a 2-minute drive in the end, and then the Ravens having a chance and the Bengals getting a pick at the end.
Oh wow, that's
A little
very
bit detailed, I
detailed.
know, but I do see that I know.
But you've been listening to that so Raven? What the hell?
Nah, I think that I know,
My
right?
man seeing into the future.
Every play, like I'm gonna break it down. They're gonna run to the left, and then they're gonna pass a little slant. But
Well, you let me know before the game
I
start,
know,
all
right?
right? So I can make a little
Wait till
money.
that fourth quarter. I'm telling you, they're gonna. There's definitely gonna be some high odds for the Ravens at the end, but nah. I just think that it's gonna be a close game where they're gonna be going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then the last team to have the ball is gonna have a chance. But that I think that the Cincinnati defense is gonna step it up at the end, and we'll see what happens with that game. But it's gonna be a great matchup. Honestly, one of the best matchups of the week. I would say probably the game of the week, even though both of these teams are at 2-2. It's a big game for both of these teams, and they're both trying to stay up in that division. So, um, another team is trying to stay up in their division, though, playing the top dog in their division are the Raiders, and the Raiders got a tough matchup on Monday night. Monday Night Football. You got the Raiders versus the
Hmm.
Chiefs, and there's gonna be a big game. Big game. Obviously, we were talking about the Raiders earlier, but what do you expect from the Raiders in this game, and who you got in this one?
So both these teams kind of in the opposite direction, trying to find their way to even ground. Ravens finally got their first win over the Broncos. Like we said, Josh Jacobs finally looked good, 170 yards, 175 scrimmage yards with 2 touchdowns. Chiefs still taking care of business like they should. 41-31 win over the Buccaneers. Mahomes threw for 3 touchdowns, and the team themselves put up almost 200 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
So that's not even normal for them, but they're just looking like they're doing what they're supposed to do.
I think they found another
Obviously,
running
the
back over
Raiders,
there, Panchero.
exactly. Yeah,
Panchero.
they really found a way to hit stride on all 3 elements of the ball. Um, so right now, Raiders really need to win. Um, Divisional game, and it's crazy because there's a lot of good divisional primetime games this week. Las Vegas is 1-8 against Kansas City, pretty much since the last few
Since
years,
Mahomes has been
and
there,
pretty
probably.
much, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much, yeah, yeah, yeah. And last year they pretty much got outscored by like 30 points a game. So it wasn't even good games. And not to mention, this is at Arrowhead where the Chiefs barely lose. So I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I think that Mahomes is going to go off. I think we also see Travis Kelsey have a
Hmm.
great game. I do think Josh Jacobs also has a great game. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs got too many offensive weapons. Juju Smith is starting to come into
Yeah.
his own,
Playing well.
and he's gonna pretty much go off against the Las Vegas secondary, him and Kelsey. And like you said, 189 yards last week. They're finding something to work in the backfield. So I'm gonna give it a Chiefs win, 31-21.
Yeah.
Who
Honestly,
about
yo,
you? Who
the
you got?
Chiefs this year, they're scoring like crazy. Number 2 in points this year. They found another running back. You're right about that. Panchero is that dude. Like I watched him in college a little bit, and I even in the preseason he was balling out. I really like what he's doing, and along with Edward Hilaire in there, I do think they found another guy to replace Kareem Hunt. Honestly, he's definitely that style of guy that's more of a cutback runner. Um, and I do agree with you that Juju Smith Schuster is definitely stepping it up. I didn't think he was gonna this year. I'll be honest. I thought that he wasn't gonna play as good as he is, and he's playing better than my expectations. I thought Miko Hartman was gonna take that number one role, but it looks like Juju Smith-Schuster is
Hmm.
gonna be that number one guy at least for now, until they figure it out. But as far as them scoring points, they're doing it both on the offense and defensive side of the ball. Um, we talked about the Raiders' issues. They definitely had some tough games this year. They played a lot of close games though, and I think that this could be another one. This could be another close game. Honestly, you saw what the Colts did to the Chiefs, and the way that the Colts were able to really bring the Chiefs down in points and win that game is Jonathan Taylor was actually able to hold the ball down, get 4 yards of carry, and they were able to get first downs like that. I think that
Yeah, but Colts got top six
yeah,
defense. The
that's a
Raiders
good
don't.
point. That's a good point. I do agree with you there. I definitely agree with that. I think that the secondary is going to be an issue. Are they going to be able to stop Mahomes throwing the ball all over? That's going to be an issue for sure, and especially those deep throws. Are they going to be able to stop Kelsey? I'm not sure about that, but I do think that if they're able to hold the ball a lot longer and start getting like some longer drives of like 10 plays, 12 plays, Even if they don't get a touchdown at the end of it, if they get some field goals, I think that's definitely going to help out for the Raiders. Now they are playing at Arrowhead, and that's going to be a problem, big issue, big issue. But this is a divisional game,
Hmm.
and I actually don't think that the Chiefs are gonna score as high because I think Josh Jacobs is gonna he's gonna be able to slow down the offense and slow down their defense too as well, and make sure the time possession is on the Raiders side. So for that reason, I honestly got this one uh 22 to 19. I got a weird score.
Oh yeah, and that's a very low score. So both teams just put up 30, 40, 30
Yep.
points, and now they're playing two teams that don't have defenses in each
Each
other.
other. That's
So
true.
I think they're both putting at least 20 points up. But I think that the Chiefs are gonna take a little lead, and the Raiders only put up 21 because they're gonna force a throw, and we all know Derek Carr
Yeah.
can't be relied on to win a
Yeah.
game. Mm-mm.
Yeah, that you
Mm-mm.
got a point. You got a point there. It's gonna be tough for them, but I just think that with the running game, they're definitely gonna be able to slow it down a little bit, slow down the game, try to get like 36 to 38 minutes of possession time, and not get Patrick Mahomes the ball. Honestly, just keep it away from his hands. That's the
Yeah,
best strategy you can do.
I mean, for the Chiefs, that is the best
Yeah,
strategy. Keep them
and
out.
that's gonna be it for the football games in week 5. We went through 3 big games this week that are they're gonna make a lot of difference, and this game as well. Like we said, the Raiders need that game because the Chiefs are top dog right now, and then you still got the Broncos at 2-2 and the Chargers at 2-2, who are still looking promising. So the Raiders definitely need this game. The Chiefs need to take this game to stay at the top place right now. And if you look at the NFL rankings overall, the Chiefs are ranked in the power rankings number 1. So they want to keep
Oh
that
yeah,
ranking.
'cause that offense is just
It's
so
true, but it's
overpowered.
surprising. You would think that a 4-0 team and the Eagles would be, but you know, I got to give it to a lot of people still.
Because only one team is expected to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean they're expected to. That's true, but you got to look at what's there, not what you're expecting to do. As far as power rankings, that's how I feel
Right.
about power rankings. But I can see why they would, because the Chiefs had a chance to win that game against the Colts too. So I could see why they could see them being
Exactly.
that. But I definitely agree with you about that game. Definitely agree with you on some great matchups. And we want to thank you guys for listening in on this episode. It's been a great episode talking about week 4 and week 5. We talked about a lot of cool things about the Raiders. We went into detail about obviously talked a little bit about the Cowboys as well. We talked about the Bills. We talked about the Eagles. We definitely got into it. About a lot of different teams. So comment below if you guys want to, talk about your favorite team. Let us know what you think about this episode. If you want to let us know about the matchups ahead, see who's gonna win. Who do you guys think are gonna win? Make sure you guys comment below and click that like button right now, and make sure you guys subscribe to us so we can keep putting out this great content for you guys. Also, if you guys want to check out our Patreon, please make sure you go ahead and do that. We got some cool merch for you guys out there. Also, if you want to ask us other questions or some general support, please go there. And if you just want to listen to us, maybe you're on a drive at work, maybe you're just on a long trip and you just want to put on, a nice little podcast, check us out. Who You Got Podcast. We're everywhere: Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, honestly. Also, make sure you check us out on our personal pages: Instagram.com/The Iconic Dude, and Mello is at.
Mellow the
That's right.
Notorious.
And also, if you guys want to check out other social media stuff, please go ahead.
Yes, and you already know we love the fan interaction. So keep commenting. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. Give us some topics. Give us your takes. We definitely got a lot of good stuff planned. And you already know we're here every Tuesday, 8:30. Uh, NFL episode, man. Hot topics and going over who you got for the primetime games. So catch us every week, and we hope to keep
That's
catching
right.
you.
Again, appreciate you guys for watching another episode of Who You Got With. And
Mellow.
Rado, we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Peace.